Hello and welcome to Green Pass Gaming's Thursday podcast, our first podcast of the year 2022. And oh my God, did the gaming gods give us a gift from heaven for us to open our first show of 2022 with. Apologies for obviously this being the first show of the year, being the 20th of January already. So we're already nearly 3 weeks into January. It's our first show. And as we messaged on Twitter and on our Discord channel, the weekends were starting to get a little bit tough trying to squeeze it all in. Now everyone's back at work and we work hard, and weekends are a precious time for everyone. So we've kind of earned our weekends back, but we do endeavour to try and do this show during the week because we do love what we do. Somehow the community seem to really love what we do, so we're going to put on a great show for everyone tonight. And without any further ado, let's get straight into the welcoming the GPG crew back after their Christmas break, well-deserved Christmas break. And we'll start with you, Pucks, and we'll go down the screen. Welcome, my friend. Hope you had a good Christmas. What have you been up to?
Yes, hello, chat. I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, it's been, as you just said, it's been a long time. I think coming up to just a month, just over a month since we did our last year-end show. So yeah, it's been a long time, but really looking forward and really happy to be back. What have I been up to? Working and gaming, I think, has been the most, the most of my time so far. I think most interestingly, you might find, I took advantage of an Xbox store sale the other day, and it was because my partner loves it. She loves the Shenmue games, and the HD collection was going for about a $5 for 1 and 2. And I'd never played them before. And so my partner and my cousin both played it together. He'd bring his Dreamcast round, and they would play it. I never saw the appeal. I bought it on sale, and I've since jumped in, and now I'm kind of hooked on it, if I'm honest. So I've been playing that for the last week, which is probably going to interest a number of people. But at the same time, I've also been dabbling in a number of new Game Pass launches as well. I've played a little bit of Nobody Saves the World because that came out today as well. Because I played the demo and that came out about a month ago, and I love that game as well. So I've got a good few things that I'm going to be dabbling in for the next couple of weeks, I think.
Excellent. Well, you can't go wrong with Shenmue 1 and 2. I've still got the original double discs for my Dreamcast, all nicely boxed and everything. And I suggest perhaps that once you finish Shenmue that you jump over to Yakuza Like a Dragon, because it really reminded me of Shenmue. I really love that. And just the typical kind of whole Sega vibe going on. I love that. So, no, that's cool. Scott, welcome back to the show, my friend. After a couple of absences late last year, welcome back. You're still not overly chipper, aren't you? But you're with us. And what have you been up to, my friend?
Yeah, it's good to finally be back, Flap. Missed the last couple, which I was good, especially the last show that you had. I think you had Dutch and Boxing Burger on, didn't you? That was a really, really good show as well. Not 100% after getting COVID. So still suffering from sort of the after effects of that, but glad to be back on the show. I am going to say one thing though. I'm really surprised Pucks is enjoying Shenmue, because I generally think that some of the most overrated games, I think.
Really?
I don't like Shenmue 3 as well. Just looks absolutely dreadful, but I really didn't get the appeal of the original Shenmue game.
I'm guessing you didn't play it first time round.
Yeah, I did.
You did?
I played at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I really don't get it. And the thing that I find so bizarre about that is like I think they've aged so badly as well. But I'm glad you're enjoying it, Pucks.
Things like the shoddy voice acting is the big thing. It's like, oh my god, like people love this, like in the late 90s, but it's hilarious to go back to now. But I kind of got used to it.
Yeah, I wonder now that I'm so far past it, whether I would maybe enjoy for the comedy value alone going back. But the weird thing is when I look at Shenmue 3, it seems like nothing's changed. It looks like it was released 6 months after Shenmue 2. It has a lot of the how do I put it, the old appeal maybe of the first couple of games. So but like Fox, I've been playing Nobody Save the World, maybe a couple of hours into that, really enjoying that. I've actually played quite a bit. Started playing Moonglow Bay. I've just installed Hitman 3 today. That's just come out. I've installed Rainbow Six Extraction. See how long that lasts on my hard drive. Maybe not too long. Obviously, an absolute boatload of Halo as well. So yeah, it's been fun over the past few weeks.
Well, that's really cool. Well, I'm surprised. I loved Shenmue, but perhaps it's a little more divisive than I realised. Luke, welcome to the show, my friend. Hope you had a good time off, good Christmas, and yeah, what have you been up to? And more importantly, what's your take on Shenmue?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah, I had a good break. That's the Shenmue question's quite loaded because I've tried to give it a go a few times, but I've never really like clicked with it. It's a bit like the Yakuza games for me. Like and it doesn't seem too different from those on the outskirts. I think Yakuza is probably a bit more modernized, but yeah. So I haven't been playing Shenmue, and I don't think I will be. What have I been playing? A lot of Halo still multiplayer. I finished a campaign over Christmas. Forza I've gone back to recently, so I had a bit of time off from that. That's just great. And it was the first. I got a new TV as well, and it was the first. I specifically went back to it because I was like, I need to see this like on this TV. And then every time I go back to it now, I'm just like, oh man, this game looks so great. Like this is such a fantastic game. And that's kind of got me back into it. So that's cool. I played a bit of Nobody Saves the World as well, which is really cool, really different. I really like the art style. It's kind of this quirky, bizarre, kind of crudely drawn almost, and I think it's really cool. What else have I been playing? Bit of Deathloop. I'm really slow with that at the moment. Still, I'm struggling a bit with it actually to get into it.
Oh, okay.
It's like I can tell it's good. Like when you play a game and you appreciate that it has quality, but it just isn't working for you.
Yeah.
I think that's where I am, and I feel like I might be able to get into it, but yeah.
You've basically just described all of the Souls games for me.
yeah. I think it's that kind of feeling, isn't it? You're like, I can appreciate this is a really good game, but I just can't grasp it. I can't. I'm not getting that itch to go back and play it. I think that's what it is. And I've also been playing the Outer Wilds DLC, Echoes of the Eye, which is just everyone knows how I feel about that, so I'm not going to say more. That's
I actually just started that. I actually started that game about 2 weeks ago, and I fell in love with
good
Outer
man.
Wilds.
Yeah,
I mentioned to him at the time. I said Luke loves that game, so.
Yeah. My partner played it over Christmas as well. Really fell in love with it as well, albeit I was very much backseat gaming at the time, so I think she was a bit annoyed. But she finished it, so that's good. But yeah, so quite a lot, and I'm more than anything, I'm just trying to get through stuff before February because then it, gaming
it all kicks off. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, GPG Crew. GPG Crew assembled. We are all together on the same podcast, same show, same quality, slightly different day. I think that's the only thing. And one massive news story. Chat, thank you for being here, everyone. Like I say, change of night. Grateful for everyone to be here. I appreciate that... this is 2 days old, this news, and pretty much every single podcast I've ever come across has absolutely covered this and smothered this. And so I appreciate you being here. This is our take on it. We do have our resident solicitor, lawyer, whatever you want to call him, on the panel that we will be grilling over perhaps some of the finer details of the acquisition and how all of that works. But before we do any of that, let's just do a quick round robin, and I'll start with you, Scott, if that's okay, because yours was the first tweet that I saw after the news landing, kind of early afternoon. I think it was Tuesday in the UK, and I think we caught the news within minutes of it coming out. How did you take this news? What did you make of it?
It was funny because the first thing I saw before the news hit was a post on Twitter by Jason Schreier. And I think he just said something on the lines of, I take the day off on vacation and this happens. And I was like, oh shit, something big must be happening. And then the tweets start trickling in, and it's just people posting, oh, Microsoft are looking to buy that. And I was like, well, hold on, this doesn't seem right. And then I think Bloomberg started posting about it, Wall Street Journal started posting about it, and then it's like, holy shit, this is actually happening. And then the official post comes out on Xbox Wire, and then the tweets come out. It's $70 billion, and this all happened in about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it was pretty nuts. And then obviously wrapped up in all of that was obviously people's takes and opinions, and a lot of just WTFs. I think my original post was just like, what the blank blank blank, because it was so out the blue. I mean, not that these things are typically leaked ahead of time because of what they are, but you could have asked me before Christmas, name 20 companies that Microsoft might acquire next year, and Activision wouldn't have been in that list at all. So it was just a complete surprise, I think, more than anything. You combine the negative press that have been associated with Activision Blizzard over the past 12 months and combine with just the sheer size of the acquisition in terms of the monetary value associated with it. It was just a complete shock, like a genuine industry shaking shock. The Bethesda one, if you remember how we reacted then, we were like, holy shit, this is massive. And then this makes that deal just look like a tiny little, just going to the shop and buying yourself a bottle of pop and a packet of crisps. In comparison, it's ridiculous. Yeah, and I still don't think it's quite sank in.
No.
I think you might be showing an image a little bit later in the show at some point, but just when you look now at the size of Microsoft's
let's get that image up now.
Lineup,
let's slash.
It's truly it's staggering, and obviously we're here are all Game Pass subscribers, and obviously we primarily game on Xbox or PC, and you just look at this and just think, Jesus Christ, the amount of content I'm going to be getting for the next however many years. I know this deal isn't going to close for a little bit, but it is truly staggering. It really is.
I mean, like you say, it blew my socks off, and I think we've mentioned on the show before the one franchise I never thought could actually come to Game Pass would be Call of Duty. Now, I'm a Call of Duty gamer. I like Call of Duty. I've played every single one since Call of Duty 1 and beyond. Like I say, I was playing Medal of Honor before that. I love all of those games. I've followed its progress. It's turbulent ups and downs, and to be honest, Vanguard, it's not a bad game, but it's obviously with what's going on in Activision, it's not been received particularly well. I think Warzone has something to do with that as well. But to think that is going to be day and date on Game Pass, and I know there's going to be lots of that hasn't been confirmed yet, and there's going to be lots of things that we will discuss that haven't been confirmed. So we are going to make some assumptions, and they might be right, they might be wrong. But that was just one.
That well on with Flap. We're going back to is it going to be exclusive? Well, I thought we got over that, but we're going to have to go back to it.
We are going to have to go back there. And to be honest, I hope actually Xbox and perhaps Phil Spencer do a slightly, I won't say better job, but perhaps clarify it a little bit sooner rather than kind of leaving people dangling, because this is going to be an even bigger question than Starfield. But Luke, was you? I mean, obviously, let's take it for granted that you was obviously flabbergasted by the deal happening itself. But was you surprised that Microsoft were dipping into, I believe, roughly 50% of their treasure chest to actually go and buy this in cash from Activision?
Not particularly, I don't think. I mean,
okay.
It's it was very surprising. I kind of had the same gradual exposure to it as Scott did, and then all of a sudden within like 2 minutes it was everywhere. And I kind of just sat there and was like, well, no, that can't possibly be true, because it's just bonkers, isn't it? It's just a crazy deal. And it's not one I think anyone would have really predicted either. I mean, you could have said a number of other publishers would have been, on paper, a better fit. But so I think that's what made it quite shocking, is that I just don't. In my head, I'd never entertained Activision. I mean, in terms of their treasure chest, I mean, it's still only half of it. So, and it's for stuff like this, right? It's cash in reserve for amongst other things, big acquisitions that they feel will assist their various business endeavors. So yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a pretty significant premium on every share. I think it's $90 or something, $95. And yeah, it's just a flabbergasting deal. And it was just how quickly it just kind of barreled out the door, really. And then all of a sudden it was official, and that was it. And we're looking to close it in the next year and a bit. So yeah, madness, but really interesting.
Yeah, no,
just
absolutely.
On the premium side of things, apologies, Flap. I was actually hoping to get Luke's opinion on this because he mentioned it was a decent premium on the share price. I think you're familiar with Whole Law, Luke. Right in thinking.
Yeah.
So I was watching some of his content on it, and he was talking about how the share price of Activision Blizzard as recently as in the past 12 months has been regularly in the low to mid 90s and even over $100 per share as of late. And obviously this was I think was 95 exactly actually per share that they acquired. So I guess from your perspective, would you consider that much of a premium when it's been higher than 95 within just the past 12 months? And would you, and this might be a question for later in the show, Flap, so do let me know if you just want to talk, if you want to.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Have Microsoft swooped in at this point because they could get it for this price, where say 8 months ago it would have cost them maybe $140 a share or something if they wanted to do the deal, which might price them out of the acquisition?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think I should put into context. I think when I'm talking about premium, I distinctly remember because my partner actually had some Activision shares she sold a few months ago. I think it was hovering around maybe 3 to 4 months ago. It was around $60, for example. So compared to then, it is a premium. Obviously, it fluctuates all the time, but it's still, if you take their market cap, and I can't remember exactly what their market cap was prior or within the last few months, but it's a good chunk over that, right? And that comes out of various things. As I've said before, market cap isn't the same as market value, but I think Microsoft would have looked at it and gone, $95 a share is the bargain that's been put to us, and it's probably good value because Activision are about to enter. I mean, they've been in a very turbulent time. They're about to enter a even more turbulent time, probably because they've got the full cases going through the court now. Employees on strike. Their roadmap of games isn't particularly encouraging in the next year. So I think Microsoft probably looked at it and went, it's good value for what we want now, and we can. The good thing for Microsoft is that they're still very insulated from all of the Activision stuff until they actually complete the deal. So, they can just let Activision run it. They'll have some oversight. I mean, not directly or anything like that, but Activision will need to do things in a particular way. And so, I think it's, and it sounds mad to say that, $68 billion is a good deal. But if you look at Call of Duty or something like that, I think I read on the day actually, that because I was quite interested, and I think Activision 2018 said that Call of Duty over its life had made over $30 billion. So, on that alone, you could get a fantastic return for Microsoft, not even factoring in Blizzard, other IPs, etc. So, and on all the workforce that comes with that as well, to make more games.
10,000 employees, that's a big deal, isn't it? Yeah. Doesn't that almost double all of the employees? I think it's on the bottom of that graph. Let me just pop that back up on the screen again for everyone, just so we can have another quick look at that, because I think it has the employees at the bottom. Yeah, so 2,500 under Xbox Studios, nearly 2,500 under Bethesda, and 10,000 plus under Activision Blizzard. So that's quite a significant increase to headcount.
Yeah, I don't envy
Blizzard
HR
alone are like 5,000.
Yeah,
I don't envy that at all. Or their their new monthly Activision salary bill that they will get. 10,000 employees on the roll. That's good.
Yeah, someone when they read that news just thought, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" When they heard it.
Yeah,
some people were happy.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's finish off our round of reactions. And Puxley, obviously a fellow Call of Duty player. What does this deal mean for you? Because you don't buy every single one every year. I know you enjoy it, and I think you kind of dip in and out depending on whether Call of Duty is kind of getting a good reception that year or not. I know you enjoy pretty much all of them, but you're not a hardcore. I'm going to buy it every year type. So what does this mean for you then?
Oh man, that's an interesting one. I remember when that's it. As you say, that Tuesday late morning, early afternoon, whenever it was. And then like the Discord was starting to blow up, and I'm sitting here like I think it was like Scott, Luke, BMG, and a number of others that are starting to share some links and stuff, and it's confirmed. And I was just like, "What the bloody hell are you all talking about?" And then it was like, "This isn't real, surely." And then I looked it up on I went onto the Xbox Wire, like their official kind of Xbox blog site, and it was all on the front page there. And I read all through that, and it was just like, "What? Like this can't be a thing." Like it was only a couple of months ago. We were still kind of starting to understand how significant the whole Bethesda thing was. And then as Scott was saying at the beginning, like that just seems like pocket change compared to this. And it's one of those things where I think everyone never really anticipated that this was a thing. So, from what you asked me, sorry, about, from a Call of Duty perspective, yeah, I've kind of dropped in and out of it in recent years. But if anything, it's not just a Call of Duty library. Like, in time, I'd like to believe that these things would all definitely be coming to Game Pass in some capacity, which I think would be absolutely fantastic, because I think it's one of those games where a lot of people aren't willing to buy because of its, what's the word?
The optics that it gets, particularly from Activision.
Yeah, and it has its own kind of identity and perception now. People perceive it in a certain way, or the game is perceived based on the fan base, and that can be quite toxic depending on how you play or where you play and things like that. So I think, those reasons alone, I think, are enough to make people not want to spend their 70 quid to jump into what is ultimately a relatively shallow and short campaign, no matter how glorious it may be cinematic wise. But most, Call of Duty is for the multiplayer. And I think for the most part, people think it's going to be toxic. They won't even part of their money. So I think now knowing that the whole library and as well as every other or most other IPs under the banner of Activision are going to be potentially coming to Game Pass, I think it's a massive win. But then the other thing that I thought was interesting to think about was, because I read some articles the other day, and they were talking about how before Activision accepted the Microsoft offer, they actually went and I think they sought out any other interested parties. I think there was 2 that did come forward, and they remained anonymous, so nobody really knows who they are. But I think they were not deemed taken seriously enough, so they kind of just fell by the wayside. And I think it was only Microsoft that were there saying, "We seriously want to, we are seriously interested in buying you out," kind of thing. But then the other side of that is that led me to thinking was, given the whole, internal struggles of Activision with the whole, sexual misconduct scandals and everything else that's going on, and the whole California lawsuit that's going on with them and all this other stuff, it's almost, well, for one, I imagine, this thing would have been happening months prior before that news became public. So, and then when Phil Spencer a couple of months ago mentioned, or even just a month or two ago, when he was saying about how they're currently reevaluating their relationship with Activision Blizzard, it was almost like, like now that we know that this acquisition was happening and is happening, I can only imagine he was probably thinking, what the bloody hell is going on over there? Like, what are we buying? I imagine they must have thought, we need to really understand more than what we originally did, if they didn't know already, Or maybe they did know, and it was just more to a public safe face thing, I guess. But
so I think GamesBeat interviewed Bobby Kotick. Has anyone seen the transcribe of that?
No,
yeah, and it's a truly.
It is truly horrendous for a couple of reasons. He's going on about how he treasures sort of the company values and respect in the workplace and all of those horrible things that he just doesn't mean and stuff. But he also kept making references to how him and Phil are great buds. And when the deal came in from Phil, or when it was mentioned, he kind of thought, yeah, now's the time. And I don't know. It just didn't sit very well with me. Pucks, one question I was going to ask you, and perhaps it's a little bit early in the show, but and we're going straight into speculation town here. I think this show's going to be a little bit all over the place because my head's still spinning, and I'm going to ask questions as and when they pop in. But when it comes to Call of Duty, do you think they might actually split out multiplayer, Warzone, and single player, and perhaps let's say make multiplayer free to play, a little bit like Warzone, perhaps bundle them together and keep that multiplat, and just perhaps keep the story mode, single player, offline mode exclusive? Is that something that you think they might be able to do?
I never really considered that before, but so I suppose in those words, it's definitely within the realms of possibility, I think, especially when you consider these large franchises are, well, I think as you say, like Warzone on its own earns Activision an absolute fortune. And I think, most of the revenue come from that and not even the baseline. The mainline multiplayer is how I understand it from what I've read not too long ago. So, no, I can definitely see that being a thing. Most hardcore COD players don't really dabble much in the campaign. If they do it because it's there. But then once they've done it, if they even complete it, they jump straight to the multiplayer. So it does make sense to me that, for people that are interested in the campaign, sure thing, that's maybe exclusive to Game Pass or whatever else. And multiplayer is going to be this, a free-to-play package for all platforms. I think that definitely makes sense as a way forward.
Well, I think it makes sense if they can bundle the multiplayer and Warzone together free of charge, and obviously have the battle pass that that extends to both, all of the microtransactions and all of the skins and all the silliness that go with that. That kind of makes sense, and I think that would possibly appease all of the audiences that obviously play and enjoy Call of Duty and stuff. And perhaps and let's call a spade here. We're talking about Sony fans that may feel left out. That if this was to be purely exclusive, I think it would appease PlayStation and Sony fans if the campaign was exclusive only, because I don't think Call of Duty campaign is massively high on most people's agenda. I don't think that's the main reason people buy Call of Duty year on year. I think it's possibly the multiplayer and things like that. So, it would be interesting to see if that's one of the ways that they can go, I guess.
Can I just bring up something as well? I've just seen a comment. I mean, as I was speaking, and I think I mentioned about how I mentioned something along the lines of Microsoft approaching Activision, but then I saw a comment from Wandering Dutch saying, no, Activision approached Microsoft. Which is, well, I wasn't aware of that, but it kind of makes sense.
That's not what Bobby Kotick said in his interview with GameSpeak.
I think the New Times were reporting that Microsoft approached Activision, and then Activision said, "Nope, your offer's crap," and then they came back with a second one that said, "Yep." So, yeah. It's always hard to determine, but I think, and then as you say, I think Kotick said. Then again, I don't trust what Bobby Kotick says.
No, exactly.
Times, but I think in this case, he's probably right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people familiar with it, or people close to the situation, or sources. There's obviously still a lot of speculation at this point as to who did what and when, which we might never fully know the actual truth, to be perfectly honest. But
can I ask the panel though, I guess, about why do you think they even accepted it? Do you reckon is this whole sexual misconduct scandal and how it's potentially affecting? I mean, I know it had massive repercussions internally when you've looked at the leaks of the leaked documents and stuff that came up. That was what one or two employees even committed suicide over some misconduct happenings that went on and stuff. That's pretty serious stuff. But at what point do you think they thought maybe we should consider this? Do you reckon internally shares are dropping, popularity of franchises are dropping, do you reckon the whole infrastructure is breaking up?
I think
why is this even happening in the first place?
I'll go first. I think Bobby Kotick saw a lucrative out on this one, so rather than getting booted out, he can kind of through the decline of Call of Duty, the slow decline and painful decline of Call of Duty, and not appeasing the shareholders and stock prices tumbling and stuff. I think for him this is a way out for him to get a nice big retirement fund potentially, and move on under a shadow, but not being booted out. But I'd be interested to hear what Luke and Scott have to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's he would no doubt have some influence on this, and totally agreed that I think it's good timing for Activision. It kind of takes away a lot of the bad press. It doesn't take it away; it obscures it slightly because that's not what people are talking about. It allows it to kind of simmer and not die down, but just kind of be in the background. And absolutely, I think that I think the reasons probably twofold. I think one, Bobby and other executives will have significant parachute payments on a change of control. I think Bobby's is something like $298 million of cash and stock. So he will happily retire after the deal goes through. And I think also Activision are in a weird position where they're making a lot of money, but they don't really have that much more to grow their franchises, Call of Duty, etc. They're already pumping games out in that franchise very often. It's an annual basis essentially, isn't it? So and it's kind of hitting or has already hit critical mass, I think. And that's not to say that I don't think Microsoft could take it further, because clearly they could in some sense because of the infrastructure they have, etc. But I think it's more and more difficult for Activision to operate the way they are, where there's this massive demand and focus on big, huge, consistent AAA, take no risk games that make a lot of money, and you can see that through the way they're organizing developers, where you get like Toys for Bob, I don't know, probably working on Call of Duty at some point, or 4 studios working on Call of Duty. And then Blizzard being asked to do things and kind of pointed in a direction which is not really, commensurate with their kind of technical, artistic ability, etc. So I think it probably just made sense that let's just let's get a good payout, but it also leaves the studio the publisher and all the studios in really good hands, really. From a company that will interfere, Microsoft will interfere with it, but in a good way, I would think, to try and steer the ship, and hopefully then actually allow these developers to make what they want, right? And do the kind of things they want to do, and really unlock a lot of that creativity. So I think Activision just probably looked at it and went, now's as good time as any to do it, and it's the right sort of acquirer as well. So
yeah, and to be honest, lots of people are saying, better Microsoft than Tencent and things like that, which I appreciate on some level. Scott, I've got a question for you. I mean, let's assume Bobby Kotick and his directorship of Activision are quite a greedy bunch. Let's be honest about this. They flogged Call of Duty into the ground, and even as a Call of Duty fan, and to be honest, guys, this show isn't just going to be about Call of Duty. We'll move on at some point because there's a hell of a lot of a big conversation to have about all of the other IP. So we'll be doing that in a sec. But do you think Microsoft will be as keen to milk dry the Call of Duty cow, for the want of a better metaphor? Or do you think they might actually hold off and try and revive the series and sort of bring players back? Because I think it relies on a lot of new and fresh players constantly coming in, and they've lost a lot of the older ones. So do you think Microsoft are going to bleed it dry, or do you think they're going to try and revive the Call of Duty?
I think there's going to be an attempt at revival. I think one of the reasons, this kind of goes back to maybe what Luke was saying. I think one of the reasons I think they've been able to make this deal is because they've kind of got to the point, particularly with Call of Duty, which is their largest franchise. It's like, what do they do next? There's nothing they can literally do that with that franchise at this point. It's already an annual cycle. They've already got COD Mobile. They've already got Warzone. Where do they actually go next? And what we've seen through that is, particularly over the past couple of years, is actually the public perception of the game. I think it almost peaked with Modern Warfare, or the remake or remaster of Modern Warfare that was highly received. But then since then, it's kind of dropped, where the Vanguard title that was released just last year. That's kind of the worst received game, I think, both critically and commercially in some time, in a number of years. So where do you go from there? Do you just keep pumping out the same games? You just do what you've been doing that has seemingly been
I'm
less
guessing that's
successful?
because Microsoft did actually mention the roadmap and the pipeline that Activision have in place, and I assume that is for all of their IPs, but I'm guessing mainly Call of Duty. And they said that they were quite happy with what they saw. Now, obviously, Microsoft aren't going to say anything otherwise, but you can probably feel pretty certain that the next 3 Call of Duties are certainly lined up with obviously studios, and they're in development. I guess. The 4th year could be interesting and could be the first year that Microsoft actually get the chance or opportunity to make a change. But
yeah, I mean, I kind of, not that I'm a particularly big fan of this franchise, but it feels a little bit like it needs kind of almost the Assassin's Creed treatment, where that kind of took a little bit of a break after people were burnt out on it, and then it was fairly well received when it came back after that break. Obviously, there will be. There's 3 bloody studios on Call of Duty, so there's already probably at least 2 other games in development at this point for the next couple of years, and there will likely be contractual agreements, particularly with PlayStation, surrounding those that will see them released and continue to be released on PlayStation. But beyond that, and this is maybe more hope more than anything else, is in. I think me and Luke are actually in a similar boat. When we look at this acquisition, I don't really have any excitement from an Xbox perspective about the Activision half of the transaction, because it has become just a Call of Duty machine. We've mentioned Toys for Bob. You look at maybe just how many, I think there's a stupid amount of studios just working on Call of Duty at the moment. And kind of my hope is that Call of Duty is never going to go away. But if they could maybe make that maybe every 2 or 3 year release and have some excitement around it, give the developers a little bit more time to focus on the game and polish it, because just look at the issues people are having with Warzone and things like that.
But that comes back to the actual essence of my question, to be honest, Scott. Do you think Microsoft would be willing to give up a year's worth of that kind of revenue that the new Call of Duty brings? I don't think Activision were willing to do that. Do you think Microsoft will be?
I think so. And I think if you look at what they've done with the developers that they've acquired since, you even look at what they did with 343, they give up having Halo on the launch of their brand new console in order to give it the time it needed to be a success. You look at least how it seems from the outside looking in as to how they're treating their existing first-party studios. It does seem they're giving them not just the time, but obviously the finances. They give Double Fine more time and more money to finish Psychonauts 2. They seem to be giving a lot of their development studios what they need to just develop the game. Now, obviously, I'm sure there's pressures internally to hit particular dates, and they want to have particular dates or games released by a particular date, sorry. But it does seem that they're kind of willing at least to give studios time. And I guess from that perspective, the hope is that applies to Call of Duty and the development studios on Call of Duty.
Well, I mean, obviously they've got Warzone that can carry the gap if they're going to put a gap in. Also, if they separate out the multiplayer aspect that can still potentially generate cash in the meantime as well, that's something I guess they could do. Or perhaps just 1 year, just launch a multiplayer aspect of it, and like you say, perhaps play catch up with some of their other development studios and get them working on other stuff, because from memory I think there's 5. I mean, the mainline Call of Duty studios are obviously Sledgehammer, Treyarch, and what's the other one? Sledgehammer, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, of course, and then you've got Raven and High Moon as well that do some stuff as well in the background with Call of Duty
and Toys for Bob.
Yeah, exactly. They wrote them all in to do bits and bobs. Yeah, so it is crazy, and like you say, if they can give themselves a bit of a fire break, as it were, to just dust yourselves down. Do we really need this many people in studios working on this title? And perhaps something like Game Pass with the subscription service and the generation of money from that with other huge AAA titles may kind of smooth out the curve slightly in any revenue loss like that for 1 year while they try and catch up and decide what they're going to do. But I'm certainly of the opinion that's not going to happen until their current roadmap is kind of satisfied, I guess. Huxley, there's so much to talk about, and I do want to come to Luke with some more of the aspects around the acquisition. But before we do, Pux, tell us about Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. Traditionally PlayStation IPs now probably, I would suspect that out of the suite of IPs, I would suspect that Microsoft would make Spyro and Crash exclusive. I know that's up for debate, but I would expect them to, in all honesty. How do you feel as an ex-obviously PlayStation gamer? Because I think we both cut our teeth on those games on PlayStation, and obviously they're going to be Xbox exclusive. That's a bit of a poke in the eye to Sony, I guess, on some level.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we had a chat about this between the two of us earlier in the week, didn't we? And I find this a weird one. I think most of the internet finds it bizarre to think that, the two of the big OG PlayStation mascots are now owned by Microsoft. And I think, my opinion on this, it's a weird one because, yes, it's great to know that in the future, like the Spyro trilogy and the Crash trilogy and all those other titles which may, already exist and may come out in the future, it's good to know that, for the most part, they're more than likely going to be coming to Game Pass, which is fantastic for anyone and everyone that hasn't yet been able to jump into those yet for whatever reason. Or, you're a younger gamer, you're just getting into gaming and you realize that you love this colorful dragon or whatever. But to know and understand, to have played the originals, loved it, brought up on PlayStation for the most part, and then thinking, will these become exclusive? Again, outside of the whole business acumen aspect and that kind of thing, I do, as a pure kind of heartfelt gamer perspective, I find it kind of sad to know that, if they were to become exclusive, it almost feels like something's being stolen a little bit. Like, it's not, I know, but
no, that's fair enough. Yeah.
It just kind of, it doesn't feel right in a way to think, if they were to, I'd love to think, because I think I saw a comment just before we went live actually, and I think went out a couple of hours ago. I think Sony said that they hope that
they expect
Microsoft with the merger. They expect a number of titles to remain multi-platform, and I can't help but feel that's not just talking about Call of Duty. It's most likely also anchoring around Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. But I don't know. Bearing in mind those outside of the trilogies, they have been dormant franchises for a long time, and I think Crash 4 and Spyro trilogies have done, if anything, for the most part for Spyro, it showed what, given the company like Toys for Bob the responsibility to say, hey, look, take the originals and please remaster it, try, do a good job, see what you come up with, and then seeing what they delivered. And the same again with Vicarious Vision. I mean, I know they're not necessarily, are Vicarious Visions an Activision owned entity, or is that like an outsourced thing?
Vicarious Visions is it doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
Does it not?
I believe it was pretty much absorbed into Blizzard at some point. Last year, because what did they do last? They did the Tony Hawk's remaster, didn't they?
Tony Hawk's,
I think they were moved over to help on Diablo, but I think as a studio, it's just part of Blizzard. I don't think it actually exists as a studio anymore. Maybe wrong on that.
Internal. So it was internal to the Activision Blizzard.
Yes, that's
umbrella.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, they did such a good job of it, and I think if in a way it's one of those things, it's one of those niche genres nowadays. The colorful 3D platform and mascots and stuff don't really exist in a massive AAA capacity nowadays. And I think people like myself that are big fans of the genre, and I think there's a lot of other people out there that also love those kind of games because FPSs are really popular and for the most part are always really good and really immersive, whatever else. But when that's kind of the main genre that I think a lot of people that aren't too into gaming think of gaming, they think of first-person shooters and not really much else. So I think a lot of the internet also seems to say this as well, that genres like 3D platformers need to make a comeback. And I know that a lot of people have also been saying, give an IP like Banjo-Kazooie to Toys for Bob now or someone, and use these dormant IPs which a load of people are craving for.
The trouble is with that though, Pux, is that obviously Microsoft have had Banjo-Kazooie for ages and they haven't really done anything with it to date. So I'm not really convinced that this this deal going through really opens the door. I guess they do have more studios that they could choose from and stuff, but with IPs like Crash and Spyro, I just think they would take a precedent over Banjo, to be honest.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I know a lot of people seem to love Banjo, but the only people that really do are the people that played the original N64. I didn't play the original N64. I played it a bit later on. I liked it, but I can't sit here and honestly say that I love it over Crash and Spyro. 100% no. But no, I agree. Yeah, Crash and Spyro will definitely need to take precedence. But at the same time, as you say, seeing as that falls under the Activision umbrella, and those companies, again, Toys for Bob, for example, they've had that experience of that franchise already and making that kind of game, and they did a fantastic job of it. So to give them an opportunity to make a new Spyro or something similar to what Crash Bandicoot 4. It'd be interesting to see what could happen if you give these companies the time and the money needed to create something new and like that.
Well, like we say, if they can put a firebreaker into the Call of Duty cycle, that would free up probably at least 2 studios to work on other stuff, even if they're playing a supporting role to other studios to get things working. But to have 10,000 employees to call upon, Microsoft's HR department must be going crazy right now. But yeah. Luke, let's come to yourself, and let's go into speculation town, as Boom would say, and let's try doing this one fairly quickly if we can, because it is all absolute speculation. But Luke, what is your take on exclusivity? What do you think will be? What do you think won't be?
I kind of flipped back and forth on it, and I've kind of changed my mind a couple of times over the last few days. I think, initially, and everybody's really looking at Call of Duty. I don't think there's any question that any other Activision game, apart from that, will be exclusive, because I think they will be. The question mark's always been Call of Duty, I think, because, unlike... there was a question when Bethesda was acquired about games like Elder Scrolls, which I never really understood, because even though Elder Scrolls is a very big game, it's not really that big, right? It sells 30, 40 million copies, which is a lot. That's a lot of, it's a big seller, but there are a number of games now that sell 20 million plus copies. So it's not like it's, going beyond the really kind of even semi-hardcore gaming crowd. And it kind of makes sense to make that exclusive. And initially, I think when I heard about Activision, I was like, well, I don't know if Call of Duty would be exclusive, because as in new games going forward made in that franchise, because I think it probably sells the best on PlayStation. It probably makes the most money on PlayStation. Certainly it's not a big seller in the PC market. It's not a huge game there. It does well, but it's not as big as many other games in that market, in the FPS arena. So I was a bit kind of up and down about it, but I think Microsoft would probably be happy. Ultimately, Microsoft will have run the numbers on all this stuff, right? They will have seen every scenario, and I think they might look at it, and they may look at it and go, well, yeah, we might lose a lot of money for the first 5 years if we do this, but over time, it could make us a lot more money, so let's do it. I don't know. I don't know what their number crunching is like and what they think about it. It would be... It wouldn't surprise me either way, I don't think, is what I'm trying to say. So, but I think it's a really difficult question as to whether they will. Certainly stuff like Warzone's never going to change, right? And that's such a huge money maker. It's really the question about these new, whatever the next Call of Duty is. Well, not the next one, but, when Microsoft actually acquire them. But at the moment, I'm leaning towards that they will probably make those games exclusive. Yeah, it's a really, really interesting question, I think.
It is, isn't it? And it's going to be one that's going to be asked many, many times. And I think Wandering Dutch and then even yourself, Scott, have sort of said, we're only going to get vague answers back, because that's all we can get. Because, until the deal's done and has been highlighted several times, Activision are still their own company with their own roadmap and their own... their own way of doing things, and there is the potential that it still may not go through, and perhaps we'll come on to that in a sec, Luke. But so Scott, just quickly, what's your take on exclusivity? What do you think will and won't come to Xbox as an exclusive deal?
I think ultimately it'll be very similar to the Bethesda deal. Flap, I think any existing contractual agreements, which will likely muddy the waters for Call of Duty, where I think Call of Duty will continue to be multi-platform for a couple of years due to those agreements. Otherwise, everything will be exclusive to PC and Xbox, with the exception of obviously World of Warcraft, which will continue just on PC only likely, and Warzone. Things are essentially, Luke mentioned the number crunching that they likely did to sort of determine, what is the best long-term outlook for this, for whatever approach they take to this. They did it with the Bethesda games, and I imagine they'd probably did a similar thing for this one, and I imagine they came to the same outcome for both of them.
Okay, that's interesting. Pucks, any differences to that?
Is this about Call of Duty specifically? Sorry.
Well, no, just any of the IPs going, exclusive. Which IPs do you think will become exclusive? Do you think all of them? And like Scott said, we're obviously talking cross console games, not things. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, as Scott was saying, anything that's only really on PC, obviously, is going to stay on PC. I think for the most part, it how can you not think that most of these IPs will remain on Xbox exclusive? I mean, you don't pay that amount of money for all of this, for all of this stuff, and then just go, you know what, everyone, you can still have it, So, but outside of that, I mean, similar to what you've just said in the poll, we'll Call of Duty single player, multiplayer, but barring Warzone, be console exclusive. I think Call of Duty is probably the one outlier here where it won't be exclusive to Xbox.
Okay.
I'd like.
And do you mean going forward? And do you mean like after the current roadmap is finished, and the first Microsoft-owned Call of Duty comes out, you still think that's going to be multiplayer?
The multiplayer side of things, yeah. Again, I know you're not talking about Warzone. I think base multiplayer, because that's still very popular as well. Because there's a lot of people out there that don't like Warzone but love the standard multiplayer.
I hate Warzone. I love Call of Duty and I hate Warzone.
Yeah.
So
I despise it as well. So I kind of feel that it's a massive kick in the teeth for what is Activision's biggest revenue stream. And as Luke was saying, for the most part, the revenue stream does come from other platforms already. So it doesn't make sense in my mind why you would out of nowhere make that exclusive. I think you'd still keep that revenue stream, but just improve the property for everyone.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Okay, well, thank you. That was a very quick round of Speculation Town. I'm sorry that, there is going to be months and months of this, and that kind of neatly brings us on to the next point. But before I get to that, chat, everyone watching, thank you very much for being here. We have obviously shifted nights from a Sunday to a Thursday. Really grateful for your time and grateful for your patronage, as it were. Like I say, we know this topic has been done many, many times on many different podcasts, and this is our little take on it. And really grateful for everyone being here. We've got 25 people watching at the moment, or we did have. So thank you, everyone in the chat. It's just a very quick roll call, actually. We've got Leon Creckles, Stubbs Gaming, BMG, Tuku and Gulu, Wandering Dutch. Oh, hang on, why can't I scroll up? There we go. I saw She's No Elite earlier. There we go. Oh my goodness me, there was quite a few actually. Some new people as well that had popped in. Retro Nerd, welcome. Thank you for being here, everyone. Like I say, your time's precious, and we're grateful for you spending your time with us and letting us know what you think about this massive deal. Luke, let's come to you on this one. Now, there's one thing I want to clear up if we can, and I keep hearing so many people on YouTube say this, podcasts. Can we just get this cleared up once and for all? I know the date of fiscal year 2023, June 2023 was mentioned, but can we just clear up that what that actually means is that's the time that the deal would be done by? So it could, that fiscal year actually runs, the fiscal year 23 actually runs from June 2022 all the way up to June 2023, a 12-month period. So there is actually a chance that this deal could close before Christmas. I think what was mentioned is that the deal is going to close within that period and not necessarily at June. Yeah. So there is a potential that this could close for Christmas. Now, obviously, given the Bethesda as an example, and that this is such a much bigger acquisition and going to affect many more people, and probably have to go through many more layers of bureaucracy, I should think. I'm guessing getting this through before Christmas is highly unlikely, although I'm sure Microsoft would absolutely love that if they could. Timescales, could it be just literally any time between June 2022 and 2023? And if so, gut feeling, I know you don't know, but gut feeling, at what point during that period do you think it is, could potentially go through at its soonest?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's within the fiscal year, so basically 1st of July 2022 up to the end of June 2023. That's when they're anticipating it will go through fully. But I mean, gut feeling, it's really hard to say with some of these things because it's such a massive deal that there are tons and tons of conditions baked into the kind of share purchase agreements that go on at this level. So how long's a piece of string? And the biggest one you have to think of as well is that it's really the conditions that take the longest in stuff like this is are the regulator ones, so antitrust, competition, etc. Those are the ones that take the longest because you don't really have much control over that. You can put your application in and then a regulator can go away and they spend a lot of time looking at it, and then they might come back and ask you a bunch more questions that you have to go and research and come back to them with. So those ones, that process can take months. It can literally take months. Alternatively, it could take not very long, but there's no chance that this won't take a while because it's such a massive deal, right? There's broader in a lot of the kind of competition stuff. Even if deals are scrutinized by competition regulators, there's not usually much kind of public scrutiny of that. It all just happens and goes on and it's approved. But when you start getting these kind of ones, which are, very, very significant, there are kind of internal pressures that go on to make sure they're up and up and they're done correctly. So, I honestly think it probably, they've got basically 6 months now, if you think about it, earliest June this year, right? So, it's genuinely very conceivable that by June or July they could complete and that they could wrap it up then, genuinely. Do I think it's likely? Probably not, but I honestly think it'll happen this year.
So you think it will happen before Christmas?
Mid-end. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's hard to tell without being in it, but and the thing is that if Activision and Microsoft have a time in mind, they'll start to get twitchy about it in the sense of they will just want it to happen and they will push significantly. And by push, I mean tell their lawyers to hurry up, and do stuff and, get conditions satisfied and push regulators to get a decision in and all that sort of stuff. So, but I think it'll happen this year. Yeah.
And does the
surprise me if it didn't, but
does the size and scale of the deal also sort of expedite how fast it could go through? Because it's obviously a bigger deal to sort of process.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. The thing is as well that is Activision are massive. I mean, they're so big that there's a lot that will need to be checked. A lot of conditionality, contracts, all that sort of stuff. That will take an enormous amount of time. So it's going to be like Bethesda, basically, probably longer, just because it's much bigger. So.
Yeah, no, fair point. And to be honest, Scott, I've got one for you as well, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when the Bethesda deal was mentioned, I believe in August of 2020, correct me if I'm wrong, the deal wasn't actually done until February 2021. I think that's correct. Like I say, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
But we did actually see the Bethesda games, or some of the Bethesda games, come into Game Pass obviously a lot earlier than that. Do you think that as part of this deal that Activision Blizzard may actually sign up to some of their games coming onto Game Pass? And I don't necessarily mean this year's Call of Duty, but perhaps some of the older ones and perhaps some of the other titles coming to Game Pass. Is that something you think might happen before the deal's closed?
I mean, I guess the question would be, Flap, is what games would you be referring to? because they don't have an awful lot of games outside of Call of Duty.
Well, but they do have Spyro and Crash. I mean, there are some games they can bring to the service.
They are. There's an unfortunately small selection of games, which is, I guess, part of the problem at Activision. I'm afraid, but it's interesting because I think with Bethesda, what you could at least call back to was there was already a very strong relationship, and Bethesda were already putting some of their games on Game Pass. The likes of Doom, I think, had already appeared on Game Pass.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't think we've quite seen that with any Activision.
No, I don't.
Games.
I don't believe there's a single one on Game Pass from memory.
Yeah. So obviously, for legal reasons, Microsoft wouldn't be able to influence that decision. But there's no reason why Microsoft and Activision Blizzard as independent companies couldn't come to some sort of agreement that would allow them to do so. But they did specify in the press release when they announced the deal was going to happen that they would look to do it once the deal closes. So they specified they would bring as many as they could on deal close. So I maybe think that it's not likely and we'll have to wait until the deal has closed, and at that point we'll get as much of that as possible, with the exception of likely some of the more recent Call of Duties that maybe have some sort of PlayStation contract that prevents them to do so. There was a few games from the Bethesda lineup that didn't come to Game Pass until a little bit later because they were part of PS Now, I believe, at the time. So I'd probably say no. I think we're likely going to have to wait until the deal closes before we see anything significant in Game Pass. But you never know. There's always an opportunity to do that. But I think we'll be waiting a little bit.
Yeah, no, fair enough. There's another round robin question that I need to ask the panel, and I will also ask the chat as well. Chat, if you're listening to the show, please get involved in the live chat. We have polls and stuff up. It would be great to hear your thoughts and opinions. And there's a question I need to ask kind of everyone really. And like I say, I'd be grateful to hear all of the chat's opinions in this. And this is a very broad, sort of cover-all question, so it's almost a yes and no answer, I guess, with some thought behind it. But Puxley, do you think Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard is a good thing for the gaming industry in general?
Yes, I think overall yes, and a lot of that is mainly based on, given again, I don't want to keep bringing it up, but the whole scandal stuff that's been going on, and a lot of the internal struggles, and obviously how that's affected development and the different studios. I kind of feel that, I believe personally, given what, again, I think Scott and Luke said it earlier, how, Psychonauts 2 and a number of other games, Microsoft gave them the support, extra time needed. Obviously, Halo was one of the big ones they gave a whole year of extra time for. And I'd like to think that they will take a very similar approach to these IPs, and just to help them foster, give them time to take in that the player feedback, the player, how the fan base's thoughts and criticisms on the franchise, what they think, analyze it all, and give them time to, think of new ideas, and give them plenty and ample time to, develop these ideas, and again, make it a smaller studio, so you've got more work and other things that can be worked on by everyone else.
Okay, no, fair point. Same question to you, Scott. Is this acquisition a good thing? Because there has been lots of chat around reviving old IPs. Obviously, if you are a Call of Duty fan, kind of reviving that franchise and not watch it sort of dive off the edge of a cliff and stuff. So in general, and I know it's a huge question, do you think it's a good thing?
Yeah, I think so. Purely because, particularly on the Activision side, I think they're essentially creatively bankrupt, and I think this acquisition will hopefully help those developers actually create some games that they want instead of just Call of Duty, and it'll hopefully give Blizzard the support and the finances that they need to kind of get back to the old Blizzard. So I think ultimately, yes. Obviously, if you're a PlayStation only owner, then you're probably thinking no at this point, which is absolutely fair. But I think that it will be a net positive overall.
Okay, no, fair point. And the same question to you, Luke. I know it's a huge cover-all question, but is it a good thing in general?
Maybe. I think certainly from an Activision perspective, in terms of their employees, I think it's really good. I think it will have benefits for gaming more broadly if Microsoft allow them to work on different things, broaden the creative platforms of those teams and in Activision. I think so. I think it will be, and most, it's it, it's a big statement from Microsoft, right? And if anything, it will spur the like Sony and Nintendo to not to respond in kind or anything like that, but to realize that Microsoft are, I mean, if they haven't already, really, really, really serious about trying to grow their own platform and the implications that has for their own platforms, right? For Sony and Nintendo. So hopefully that should all benefit us in the end, all of that. And if there was anyone I want to see acquire Activision, it would have been Microsoft, just because they've kind of consistently proven over the last few years that they are able to let development studios kind of do their own thing with oversight. But that can only be good for those teams.
Well, I completely agree. I think out of everyone, Microsoft, people, I remember VJ and I having this conversation on the show quite a few times around the historic mistrust of Microsoft and stuff. And, we've had a few new generations come along since those sort of days. And, I'm not suggesting Microsoft are the good guys, but I think this move is one that could have large potential benefits to the gaming industry in large. I know, obviously, if you're Sony or a PlayStation only owner, it might not necessarily be seen that way, but it's yet to be seen how Microsoft will handle exclusivity and stuff. But I think for me personally, the one thing that Microsoft have done by this move is actually save Activision and Blizzard declining even further, like you say, with the harassment charges. Bobby Kotick just refusing to go despite mounting pressure and the fact that it's quite clear that he knew a lot of what is alleged was going on under his leadership and did nothing about it. So to root out the rot from Activision before it's got to such a point where it can't be rescued and all of its IPs, I think is a good thing. And like you say, I quite like the term under Microsoft stewardship. It's quite nice to know or perhaps feel that they will allow those studios to, like you say, rescue them from the Call of Duty mines that they must feel like they're down constantly churning out this game that I ideally love, but can see it for all of its faults as well. I'm quite pleased, and I'm just going to flash up on the screen yet again the sort of org chart, as it were. Bear with me. There we go. So I'm quite pleased that they've still kind of siloed these publishers out. So we've obviously got Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda, and obviously Activision Blizzard, and then all of the studios that sit under those. I'm quite pleased that they haven't sort of homogenized it all into one big blob and everything like that. Do you think, Luke, just a very quick one, do you think Microsoft will actually allow these publishers and the devs to do what they want to do, like you say, but with just a guiding hand?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Does it actually give Microsoft a bit of a problem? Because imagine their launch schedule. Let's forward wind 3 years, and all of these studios are firing on all cylinders, and all of the new games are starting to come out. I mean, imagine having to line up the games and when they're going to drop and release and stuff. I mean, that's a bit of a nightmare for their PR department, isn't it?
Maybe, although it's a bit like being, Pep Guardiola and having to pick, between the embarrassment of riches he has on any given game day, So I think it's a good problem for them to have. I mean, look at where they are compared to a few years ago, where they had essentially 4 in-house studios and no projects being funded. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. I remember thinking that you probably didn't need any more after they got kind of the 15 studio level. They had plenty there.
I think that in itself surprised the world, didn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So, It's great. I mean, it's great for them. It's great for us. If you're if you're looking at, I'd said on the Discord earlier, half of these developers, I just forget that I just forget they exist, and then I'm like, oh, great, Compulsion's next game's gonna come at some point, or like Obsidian, and they're the old hotness now, and now it's all about Blizzard and Toys for Bob. So yeah, it's just a bit mad, really. But I think they'll leave them alone. Obviously, Activision less so than Bethesda, who were fine in terms of culture for the most part, apparently. So they'll let them get on with it.
No, it's very interesting. And also, Scott, as part of it, there was two other announcements. Well, one announcement and one kind of went under the radar. The first one is Game Pass hitting 25 million subscribers, and we'll perhaps come on to that in a sec. But also the change in job title for Phil Spencer, and they've dropped the Xbox kind of moniker, and he's now CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Is this a strategic move, do you think? I was really surprised to see them drop the Xbox part of this. Do you think calling him the Microsoft Gaming CEO is part of a future plan that they have? Because obviously Satya Nadella was talking about metaverse and things like that. And I know people like Oculus. I got myself an Oculus at Christmas, and I've got to be honest, I can't put the bloody thing down. It is absolutely fantastic. I love VR. I do PC VR. I've played so many games. I absolutely love it to bits. And I actually think it's the future of gaming, but I'm sure we can have many arguments around the rights and wrongs of that. But yeah, do you think this is a strategic move to call it Microsoft Gaming rather than Xbox Gaming?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I think being head of Xbox is probably no longer appropriate when you consider what they've now got, because Xbox or Microsoft Gaming isn't just Xbox. It's now mobile with King. It's not just Xbox Game Studios, it's Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda, and now Activision, Blizzard. It's PC. It's obviously cloud. It's mobile. It's soon going to be TVs. In terms of Game Pass being on TVs, I should say. So Microsoft Gaming is probably a better way to, I guess, describe what he's head of now, because what they're doing and where they're going with this, it goes beyond Xbox, which obviously you could say it's more than that, but it's essentially a box that you put under your TV. He's head of more than just that. So I don't think it's too much of a surprise to see them sort of split it out like that, I guess. One interesting side effect of that I did read is it could actually lead to more transparency in terms of revenue and maybe sales and things like that, because at the moment I think they're part of I believe they may be grouped up with Windows. I'm not too sure. Kind of how they're reporting the financials is they're grouped up with something else, so you can't exactly work out what came from what. I did read someone, obviously it was just on Twitter, so take it with a grain of salt, so that this could lead to more transparency in terms of how the Microsoft Gaming division is now doing it. It could also lead to more investor questions during those meetings. That could lead to more information around things like hardware sales, or more reveals regarding Game Pass subscribers and things like that in the future, which from our perspective will likely be interesting. But yeah, I think it's obviously a good move for Phil. I mean, you've got to remember, this guy started as an intern at Microsoft how many years ago? He's gone from intern all the way up to CEO of Microsoft Gaming. So he's had a really good bloody run at it, and it's obviously well deserved. You look at the turnaround from just 4 or 5 years ago to where we are now, and it's like a completely different company.
It's fantastic. And to be honest, I was thinking this earlier. I was thinking, Phil Spencer in his wildest dreams probably never thought that there would be a graphic, produced like this on the screen, and just with the amount of studios, and not just the amount, but the actual kind of studios that they've managed to acquire as well. And obviously, that's with a lot of support with Satya as well. And it's just amazing. Just very quickly before I come to you, Pucks, is Microsoft Gaming a company in its own right now then that reports under the Microsoft umbrella?
I don't think so. No, I think it'll be. Right. I think it'll just be a division, so to speak. Yeah. It will have its own
Windows and things like that. I think.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, it will have its own separate corporate entities and stuff, but it's a bit murky when you go into that. So yeah, no, I think it will just be a separate division.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Pugsley, obviously, the other thing that was mentioned was obviously Game Pass hitting 25 million subscribers. And to be honest, it's the one thing that not many people are talking about because obviously it's been overshadowed somewhat. I think 25 million for Game Pass has kind of been bandied around before. But, you know, I think lots of people were, and I think we actually said it on this show, we didn't think that Microsoft would actually publish the Game Pass figures for a long time because perhaps they weren't where the rumours had mentioned that they were. But here we are, 25 million subscribers. That's quite a massive increase. I think that's a 39% increase year on year to date.
Yeah, I read this as well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a massively impressive number. You know, I'm guessing that you're in agreement, but I mean, surely this deal can only make that number get, you know, exponentially larger.
Oh, 100%. And again, you know, going back from our previous conversations about, you know, the belief that, you know, in the near future, most of the IPs are going to become Xbox/Game Pass exclusives, then 100, you know, it will probably be the only way you can play, but then there's no losing scenario here, is there, for the most part? I mean, yes, you may have to, in some form, have access to a Game Pass platform, but, you know, I think that wording itself is kind of testament to the strategy that Microsoft are doing, right? I'm not just talking about Xbox anymore, as we said on a few previous shows. And, you know, Scott just said it a minute ago, you know, that Game Pass is not just, you know, is it just going to be a small box you plug in? It's just, you know, all via cloud, or is it just going to be an app on your smart TV? There's going to be multiple ways to start accessing this content. So there's no real way you can lose as a consumer, I mean, for the most part.
Unless you're a Nintendo or a PlayStation only gamer, I guess.
Oh,
I mean,
course, yeah. Unless you're hardcore in either of those audiences.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, but most people aren't nowadays, though, are they? I think even I, as a kid, had multiple. You know, I was fortunate enough to have multiple consoles, but it wasn't abnormal to be that kid that had, you know, 2 out of 3, for example. And I think I think that's more the same now, isn't it? You know, this younger gamers nowadays that yes, they have either a PS5 or an Xbox and a Switch, for example. Like, that tends to be the moniker that's going around. And, you know, I don't see there's a problem with that. You know, if people just, you know, people love those PlayStation exclusives and they want to, you know, and they want to get involved in that, then it's, you know, it's perfectly fine. This is just another option. But similarly with that, you know, interesting about the Game Pass comment, I think a lot of people see that and they think, oh yeah, it's good growth, you know, but is it going to be sustainable? Is it going to happen? And then people start throwing around the arguments about, oh, who should now PlayStation acquire? And, you know, it becomes like an acquisition war, which I don't necessarily think is the right way to think about it. But yeah, that seems, I find it interesting that is a narrative that people seem to take online. But I like to think with the strategy overall, yeah, 100%. You know, I think like if for example, you're going back to, you know, I don't want to bring back the whole Call of Duty topic, but, you know, assuming that for the most part that does become exclusive, for example, then, and most of your the Call of Duty fan base will naturally, for the most part, follow, then that is a massive boom in your increase in subscriber counts, right? And again, even for the casual game that hasn't got to worry about forking out 70 quid for whatever the game is, that's an extra subscriber in your pocket. And, you know, I think I saw some comments earlier in the chat about, are the prices going to go up? Or, you know, do we envision that they might go up at some point? And I suppose in the longer term, perhaps, you know, once the deal is fully closed, full ownership is there, you know, all the understanding of what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and when they're going to do it is all figured out. I would imagine maybe in time there might be a slight increase, but I can only really imagine that would probably be a minor increase due to things like, I don't know, the cost of running the servers and the system that supports Game Pass. Because I think for the most part, the revenue stream is going to be coming from the games themselves as well as the subscriptions, if that makes sense. So there's no losing here. I don't think it's only going to get better and better.
Yeah, no.
Just on the Call of Duty thing, Flap. I don't know if you've seen.
Just seen.
Chat. Yeah, there's been a tweet by Mr. Spencer while you were chatting there, Pucks, which is I think fairly interesting actually, where he says, and I quote, "Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry and we value our relationship." So going back to our earlier question, that's fairly.
No, I no. See, here we go. I can throw some ambiguity in there. When he says Call of Duty, does he mean Warzone or does he mean everything? You see what I'm saying? Because I think we were quite unanimous that we all thought Warzone was going to stay multi-plat, but Yeah.
But then Wuthering Darkness brought up as well, in quotes, honor all existing agreements, So, once those
he does
existing
say
agreements.
Yeah, but then there's another clause where he says
Yeah.
and our
And our
desire
desire,
to keep.
yeah.
So
Two
they're
separate
separate things.
It kind of goes hand in hand with
it's
what
an
we were saying,
interesting.
right? PlayStation for the most part is where Call of Duty lives. So and it's one of the PlayStation fan base love that game, and it's the most popular franchise there. So as we said earlier throughout the show, all of us have kind of mentioned it, that it makes sense that it does stay there, even if it's just for revenue for Xbox's sake.
Okay, Luke, I've got one for you. I think it's going to come on to the point you were going to raise, so I'll kind of ease you into it. Do you think this acquisition, particularly around Call of Duty, was around getting people to subscribe into Game Pass or just generate cash in general?
Oh, it's a $68 billion question, that one, isn't it? Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a bit of both. It has to be a bit of both.
Yeah.
It makes sense for it to be a bit of both. I think Warzone, for example, pulls in something like $5 million a day.
Yes,
in revenue.
It does. Yep.
Microsoft will be very pleased with that. And keep that going. And equally, that's one revenue stream. And then another is to continue to get people into Game Pass. And I don't actually think the Call of Duty element, I don't think is probably the leader of that, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
I think we see Call of Duty as its own separate thing, as this juggernaut, which can make money through, Warzone, can make money through
Minecraft, basically.
Titles, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly how I thought about Call of Duty when they bought Activision, or when they said they were going to buy them. It's more of a ubiquitous worldwide title that kind of plays by its own rules, much in the same way that FIFA does, right? Or even Grand Theft Auto or Roblox. I think they see Call of Duty as really important, but not necessarily really important in growing Game Pass. I think Activision as a whole and Blizzard they see as really important in growing Game Pass because it's just more content, right? It's lots more content to get people in the door. And Call of Duty now, and I don't mean that means Call of Duty, they'll keep it multi-platform going forward or make it exclusive. I just think they see that the franchise is just a moneymaker. And they will do different things and with it, and will look to exploit it in different ways. I don't think they certainly won't try and exploit it in the same way that Activision have, because Activision they have that. There's that necessity from Activision to have to exploit, Call of Duty in a way that's constantly bringing in revenue. Microsoft don't have those pressures, so it's going to be a bit different, I hope.
And to be honest, that for me, like again, as a Call of Duty fan, is the saving grace, because, like you say, they can ride out the peaks and troughs if they were to have to skip Call of Duty for a year, because they got so much other revenue coming in as a division, and like you say, they can ride that out and hopefully reinvent the thing. Because the one thing that I did see, and again, as a Call of Duty player, is when you see people and hear lots of people saying, "Oh yeah, I used to play Call of Duty, but I don't like it anymore," and I completely get that. But since this announcement, and perhaps some of the backpat Call of Duty titles may be coming to Game Pass, there's been lots of people saying, "Oh, I'd be keen to give Black Ops 2 a go," or whatever. I know some of the older titles are absolutely broken at this point, but it'd be interesting to see if the uptake in Call of Duty in general, if it comes to Game Pass, particularly on back compat, can kind of reignite some of the passion that people have obviously had for it in the past. And like I say, if they can kind of reinvent it going forward so it isn't such a dirge and a churn, it'd be interesting to see going forwards. I'm going to have to ask you, Scott, I'm going to have to ask you a dirty question, and I don't like asking it, but we're going to have to. How the hell does Sony respond to this? Do they respond? Are they on the ropes at the moment? Are they sort of sucker punched, thinking, "Crikey, what the hell do we do next?" Or do you think that their plans are still robust, and that Spartacus is coming along, and that they're just going to stick to their agenda?
I've seen a lot of hot takes, shall we say, on what Sony need to do, and ultimately, if you look at it this way, Microsoft, once they acquire Activision Blizzard in terms of gaming revenue, will still be behind Sony.
Yes.
Despite that acquisition, they'll still be behind them.
It puts them third behind Sony, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And then top is Tencent.
So Tencent,
Sony are currently selling PS5s at a faster rate than they did PS4s, which sold 115 million or so consoles. They can't make them fast enough. They're coming into 2022 when they've got Horizon Forbidden West in February. They've got Gran Turismo 7 later in the year and God of War Ragnarok later in the year as well, potentially. I mean, at least if it comes on schedule. I honestly don't think so. 2022 could possibly be one of Sony's best years ever, especially if a game like Final Fantasy 16 hits. So I don't see them responding in. I don't think they need to respond, especially if, based on Phil Spencer's tweet there, Call of Duty is going to continue being on PlayStation because they're still going to be raking in the money off Call of Duty, as well as their outrageously talented first party teams. What I think you will see is they'll continue what they've been doing recently, which is making small targeted acquisitions to build out their first party studios. Maybe in response, what we might see is a doubling down of trying to make more Japanese content, like Persona, Final Fantasy, continue to just strengthen the relationships with those publishers and developers to ensure that content remains exclusive to PlayStation. I personally don't think we'll ever see another Final Fantasy on an Xbox console ever again,
right. Okay.
Except for maybe years down the line, because I think Sony will want to double down on those relationships and ensure that if you want to play those types of games, then PlayStation's the console that you're going to have to do. But I don't think they're going to go out and buy Ubisoft, not that they would want to, or EA, probably not that they would want to. I think we'll see them making small acquisitions of maybe smaller developers that they've started to build relationships with. I think it was Jade Raymond's studios at Haven. They've obviously made a publishing agreement with them. There's the team of Call of Duty developers that they're publishing their first game. I think if those games are successful, you might see those sort of bought by Sony. I don't see being anything on the level of this, not because they can't, just more because they don't need to, and they may not necessarily want to, especially considering how good their existing first-party studio lineup is.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, and like you say, I think everyone's kind of assuming, well, what are Sony going to do next? And perhaps they do nothing next. They carry on with what they're doing. I don't think Sony will enjoy being. They may feel slightly vulnerable to one of their largest franchises being owned by the competition, should we say, in Call of Duty, that Microsoft could yank off of them at any moment. I don't know if there would be sort of deals set up around that. I'm not really sure if there. Perhaps Luke, you can comment on that. Could Sony set up a deal and actually pay Microsoft to keep Call of Duty on their platform?
Yeah, they could. I mean, if Microsoft wanted to do it as well, yeah. I think it's I mean, I think you can see by some of the community response, and then also Spencer's tweet, and I think Sony made a comment about it. There is. I think you're right in that Sony probably will feel a bit uncomfortable about it. I think it's almost fortunate, I guess, that Phil Spencer's running this. So if there was ever an opportunity to do a deal for the benefit of gamers, then it's Phil. If it's Don Matrick, you wouldn't have a chance, right? It would just be off PlayStation.
We wouldn't be in this situation, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't. No. So I think they'll be. I think Scott was pretty much bang on. I mean, look, they're still second in gaming revenue even after this, and their revenue is only going up, right? It's not, you know what I mean? Like they are making a ridiculous amount of money, and they just see stuff in a different way. I mean, they're clearly changing, they're evolving. They're kind of Pokemon Phase 2 now, where they're kind of looking at it and going, okay, well, there's money to be made on PC. We need to balance that. There's money to be made in subscription service. We need to balance that. And I don't think they'll make any knee-jerk acquisitions. I mean, if you look at the studio, apart from basically Nixus, if you look at who they've bought, it's been, developers they've worked with for years who have all made exclusive PlayStation content, who they're very familiar with, have great relationships with. I think they'll continue doing that. They'll look at developers like that. I don't think they'll go out. They could go out and buy a Ubisoft or an EA, if they really wanted to, but I don't really think they're that interested in it.
I don't think it would generate it would generate the same amount of cash for them. I don't think.
No, I mean, there's something to be said. Maybe if they bought EA, I think
with FIFA,
generate
perhaps
an enormous amount of cash with FIFA, yeah. But the other ones, if there was any publisher that I would think they would seriously consider buying, it would probably be someone like Square Enix, because they have that relationship with them. It's kind of a cultural fit. It would make sense. It wouldn't be as much money as the others. But I can't see it happening. I think they're very happy to go out and make exclusive deals, for games or content, and just pick up your Blue Point and your Housemarque and your Deviation, your Fire Sprite, and all those kind of developers, right? And just grow it kind of bit by bit. They started off, from a really good base of great first-party studios, and they'll just want to keep adding to that. So, I don't think they're going to be lying awake at night thinking what the hell is going to happen. They'll just take it as it comes.
I read a comment about Sony acquiring Square Enix, which was that would be like paying your wife for sex, which seemed quite and honestly, I think Take-Two would maybe be more likely, mainly because they've got that relationship with Square Enix, where I don't think it'll be necessary. But if they got someone like Take-Two, they would obviously have, well, first of all, Grand Theft Auto would obviously be the biggest thing there, but they would obviously now have Zynga if it was part of that. Not that I'm saying that that's likely to happen, but it kind of doesn't feel necessary to go after Square Enix realistically, because they're already in bed with each other that much. I guess the fear would be they would want to avoid a situation where
Microsoft
would be acquired by. I would probably think Tencent would be more likely to acquire Square than Microsoft, but obviously that would be the fear, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. Is I don't think Sony will do anything now, but if Microsoft started going for someone else, significant, then they would probably hit the panic button a bit and want to, then the sweeping consolidation of all the game industry begins. So, if it hasn't already, so I think they won't be buying any big publisher or anything like that. They'll kind of ride it out and just do what they're doing. They're very successful, so they don't really have to worry about it. Much like Nintendo, right? They're just
funny you should say that. I was going to start wrapping the show up now, because I know Puxley, you've got to move on, so we'll try and wrap up the show if I can. But I was going to end on Nintendo, and I was just going to I'll ask all of you, but I'll start with you, Luke, if that's it. Well, what do you think Nintendo make of this? Do you think this is just a great spectator sport for them, or do you think they're actually looking over their shoulder slightly, thinking, right, okay, the landscape of gaming is vastly changing. Are we still relevant in the next 5 years? Do you think they're having those sort of thoughts, or are they just happy sort of chugging along doing what they do?
I think they are not interested in this at all. They probably gave it one glance over on Bloomberg and were like, okay, cool, let's go on with it.
I mean, it affects them in no way, does it?
Not really, no. They occupy a very unique space in gaming. They're kind of almost infallible at this point. You can't really envisage a world where Nintendo don't do well in some capacity. They have probably an even broader audience than Sony and Microsoft combined, complete with probably a more famous brand recognition, certainly across their IP. So they'll always make money. They just have to do what they do, right? And I know some people get really frustrated at that because it's like, well, no, we want, people are like, oh, we really want powerful hardware from Nintendo, and I kind of do, but I just want really good Nintendo games, and they'll continue to do those. So, I think they're fine. I think in gaming revenue, they may be like 4th, 5th, something like that. And they've not. If you look at that, what have they actually done? That's particularly revolutionary. The last few years, they haven't really done anything. They've not really made any big moves, so they're still doing very well. They'll be fine.
No, exactly. Well, I'm going to round the show up there because Puxley, I'm conscious you've got to dive off soon. But we did run a poll. Is the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard a good thing for gaming in general? And on the panel, we all came to the conclusion yes. And out of 24 votes, 91% overwhelmingly said yes. They thought it was a good move for gaming in general. Obviously, we're slightly biased. We are an Xbox-centric channel, but there are plenty of multi-platform gamers out there, including PC. I mean, we span all of them now, don't we? Because, like I say, I've got Oculus Quest, so we've got VR, mobile gamer. Just one quick one, Puxley, King. I think Candy Crush actually makes more money than Call of Duty. Do you play Candy Crush?
I don't. I never really have done, but I am aware that it makes some of the biggest money on mobile platforms ever. So, yeah, that is one hell of a win as well. And again, we've not really had much time to talk about it, but maybe we will do in the near future. But yeah, that's a massive bonus in Microsoft's bank.
Yeah, this isn't a one-off show. There's the conversations and the fallout and rumbling is going to be going on for a long time. And a little bit like Phil's comment on tweet, there's going to be lots of like, well, does he mean Warzone? Does he mean Call of Duty in general? Does he just mean for the for the deals that have been signed? There's going to be a lot of that. I think if Xbox are clever, they'll probably keep it ambiguous on purpose. But there's going to be lots of questions over the coming weeks, and it's such an exciting time to be a game in general, particularly an Xbox gamer if you own Game Pass, and obviously particularly if you quite like Call of Duty games as well. Gentlemen, crew, GPG Crew, thank you so much for this show. Obviously our first show on a Thursday. Very, very grateful for your inputs, and it's good to be doing what we do again. Puck, Scott, Luke, thank you for being here, my friends. Chat, thank you very much as well. I think we peaked at around 25 viewers, which is fantastic. Really grateful for that. Like I say, new night of the week for us, so people aren't used to the new regime. Hoping we might be able to bring in some more viewers, seeing as it's not a weekend. And chat, you've been fantastic as always. Hundreds and hundreds of messages, lots of to and fro in. Obviously, a very, very hot but interesting topic, and we're going to be able to have so much fun with this over the coming weeks, months, and hopefully not years. But thank you very much everyone for being here. We will be hopefully doing this again next Thursday. I doubt very much we're going to have a bombshell to talk about quite like this week's show, although like I say, this one was probably going to be going on as well. So thank you very much everyone. Safe gaming. Hope you have a great time. We'll see you in a week's time, and we'll see you on the next one.